Bible Lessons Daily. Ancient truth for modern life.
First-century Judea was a society built on power dynamics and strict religious hierarchies. Living under the crushing weight of Roman rule, the cultural consensus was clear. Blessing belonged to the wealthy, the strong, and those who achieved visible dominance. When Jesus led a massive crowd up a mountainside and took a seat, the traditional posture of a rabbi speaking with authority, the people expected a declaration. They anticipated a rallying cry for political rebellion or a confirmation of their religious customs. Instead, his Beatitudes overturn every cultural expectation of the era. He looks out over the crowd and assigns true blessing to the poor in spirit, those who mourn, and those who face brutal persecution. Being poor in spirit involves an honest awareness of spiritual bankruptcy. It is the recognition that you have zero leverage, no resume, and nothing to offer God to earn his favor. In a world that glorified aggressive dominance, Jesus reserves the future for the meek. He redefines this as strength kept firmly under control, power voluntarily surrendered to God, rather than asserted over others. Jesus replaces the existing moral bar with a new measuring system. Entry into God's kingdom begins with a transformation of the heart, preceding any modification of outward behavior. The scribes and Pharisees represented peak visible obedience. They practiced religion flawlessly. Yet Jesus delivers a shocking ultimatum. Your righteousness must surpass these experts to enter the kingdom. He fulfills the ancient law by stripping away technicalities, exposing the deeper intent written beneath the ink. Jesus dismantles their defenses by tracing murder back to its source. The violation begins long before a physical act. It takes root in the quiet anger, contempt, and dehumanization festering inside the chest. He applies the same logic to adultery, moving beyond physical betrayal. He condemns the specific internal impulse to look at another human being and completely reduce them to a mere object. This standard leaves the listeners with nowhere to hide. By moving the focus from outward comparison to inward examination, Jesus entirely removes the possibility of claiming false moral superiority. Righteousness in this kingdom is measured by a heart realigned with God's character. The ability to hide sin from the public eye becomes irrelevant. The prevailing wisdom of the ancient world relied on an eye for an eye. It was a legal system designed to keep order by ensuring fair, measured retaliation. Jesus disrupts this logic. He commands his followers to surrender their right to retaliation, instructing them to turn the other cheek to an insult, to hand over their coat when sued, and voluntarily walk an extra mile under Roman compulsion.
Loving an enemy is an active refusal to let an opponent's hostility determine your own character. It requires praying for those who seek your ruin, which removes the satisfaction of getting even. He grounds this command in God's nature, who sends sunshine and rain on the righteous and unrighteous. This divine generosity is non-transactional. Regarding spiritual disciplines, Jesus warns against religious theater. Practicing generosity, prayer, and fasting to gain human applause exhausts the act of spiritual value. He provides the Lord's Prayer and specific instructions for quiet fasting to anchor devotion in daily, private dependence on God. Faith becomes a mechanism to deepen a relationship with God, far away from public visibility. He then addresses the ultimate act of trust, anxiety. Jesus commands his followers to release their worry over material wealth or tomorrow's needs. They are to seek his kingdom first, trusting God for the rest. Religious acts can look vibrant on the outside, while the heart remains dead. True faith is quiet, anchored in trust, and oriented toward God's approval. Closing his sermon, Jesus demands a verdict. He presents a choice between a wide, crowded gate leading to destruction and a narrow gate leading to life. He delivers his most sobering warning. Spiritual proximity is not obedience. Performing miracles or addressing him as Lord will not suffice for those who lack a genuine relationship. To those resting on religious activity, Jesus says, "I never knew you." He concludes with the image of two builders. Both men hear the exact same words from Jesus. One builds on solid rock, and the other builds on loose sand.
A violent storm rolls in, bringing high winds and floodwaters. This storm is inevitable and shared by both builders. The foundation is the only difference. The house built on the sand of merely hearing his words collapses. The house built on the rock of obedience stands firm against the surge. The crowds are left in awe. They recognize that Jesus is speaking with the authority of truth, distinguishing him from the teachers who merely interpret the law. Jesus leaves no room for passive agreement. A life built on these words stands. One that merely hears them falls. The question remains, what foundation are you building upon before the storm hits?
What lesson spoke to your heart today? Tell us in the comments. And subscribe for daily Bible wisdom.